strategic value at the Network of Executive Women. Welcome. We'll be going ahead and getting started in about 5 minutes. So we're thrilled to have you on our call today. We're really excited about our launch of our research today. And we've got a great panel, we've got a great keynote, and we're really excited to be launching this research to you. And I'm gonna have Kat in our background put up our one slide that shows you, if you have not gotten our research yet, you can go to newonline.org, and Kat, if you're there, if you could share the screen and we'll show you, you can access our research at newonline.org/Latina. And as you're waiting for our call to get started, you can see, you can access our research paper, again, newonline.org/Latina. We're gonna go ahead and get started in about 4 minutes here. So we're really excited to have you all join us for this research today. Hope everybody's afternoon is going well, or morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Out of curiosity, if you're on the call, in the chat, let us know if you are a member of NEW or if you're new to the Network of Executive Women. Let us know, just post in the chat, are you a member of NEW, or is this, is this the first time that you've joined us on a webinar? Welcome, everyone. Let us know in the chat if you're a first-time acquaintance to NEW or if you've been a new member for a while. I see a lot of new people. Welcome, Sandra and Anna. Erica, welcome. Andrea, Carmen, welcome. We're so excited that you could join us today. We've got a lot of first-timers joining us for NEW. We're so thrilled that we're able to introduce you to the Network of Executive Women and what we do here at NEW. We're going to go ahead and get started about a couple minutes after the hour. We've got somebody calling in from Mexico City. We're excited to have you join. We've got some new members, but first time joining virtually, so we're really excited to have you all join us today. If you haven't had a chance to download our research on Latinas, you can go to newonline.org/Latina, and that you can get a copy of this, of our research, and with our research partner, Latinarrific. We've got a fun plan for you today. We've got you, we're going to be kicking off the research. We've got our keynote from Latinarrific's founder and CEO. And then we've got our amazing panel of Latinas to talk about their experience. Again, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, you are all automatically muted, so you don't have to worry about your anybody disrupting. I actually have to worry about that since I've got 2 dogs and two under 5, so hence my headphones, so you can't hear any of the kids in the background. We're going to get started in about 1 minute. So as you're joining us, welcome. Let us know where you're dialing in from or logging in from. Let us know if this is your first time with NEW or if this is the Network of Executive Women, or if you've joined us before. We're so thrilled to have all of you on the phone with us. I see all from over. I see West Coast, East Coast, first timers, longtime new members. Well, welcome all. We're really excited about this. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please download our latest research at newonline.org/Latina. We've got Miami, we've got some Florida, we've got a lot of people in Florida. I see some names I've met through this research, so I'm very excited to see some familiar names here. We've got somebody calling in from Brazil. I think you win the prize for the participant who's joining us from the farthest away, so we're really excited. All right, so welcome everybody today. My name is Carrie Ann Gomez. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Value at the Network of Executive Women, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to our research launch here today. this is, we're so pleased to be launching our research on Latinas in Corporate America Day, and we have a thought-provoking keynote and panel for you with some powerhouse Latinas. If you're not familiar with the Network of Executive Women, our mission is to advance all women. We do that through our corporate partnerships, our research and insights, our leadership development programs, and in our regions where our members work and live. And how we got here to this launch today is that over the past few years, NEW has been conducting research on the experience of women in the workplace. This effort was kicked off with our first report called The Female Leadership Crisis, which focused on why women are leaving the workplace. The next report was called Advancing All Women. That looked at the experience of women of color in the workplace, defined as Black, Latina, and Asian women, and how companies can help advance and retain those women. The stories and experiences of the women in our study were so diverse that we felt placing women into 3 generic buckets, which is high-level recommendations, wasn't going to make the impact that we wanted it to. So we launched our 3rd series of studies focusing on a deep dive of multicultural women, and we started with Latinas as they constitute the 2nd largest population of women in the US. We partnered with Latinarrific to understand the stories of Latinas in the workplace and to develop specific actionable strategies tailored to different segments of Latina women. Like any population, each individual's experience is unique, and one Latina's experience may not reflect another's. Our goal is to help tell the story of the Latina corporate experience and help companies tailor their diversity and inclusion approach to embrace the unique strength that Latinas bring. And I'm thrilled to welcome Mary Mathis, who is here to help us tell those stories. Let me tell you a little bit about Mary, who I've gotten to know quite well over the past year with this research. Mary is a serial entrepreneur, a previous CEO of an international management, marketing, and PR firm, and a dual national, American and Australian. She truly knows what it is to be bicultural. She is the founder and CEO of Latinarrific Company Incorporated, which is an award-winning 360-degree platform committed to creating opportunities for advancement for Latinas in the United States. It's an inspirational, transformational platform to assist the American Latina to be her best bicultural self with tools and training programs designed to advance Latinas in corporate America. It is the only digital presence dedicated to Latina storytelling. Mary has a special passion for projects that empower women. The companies that Mary and her veteran media and marketing team have developed cater to multicultural markets in the US with a strong focus on the American Latina. I thought this was a really fun fact, but early in her career, Mary had an amazing mentor. She sent Mary around the world twice before she was 24 and taught her one valuable lesson. Anything is possible, but some things cost more money than others. I love that. With that, I'd love to turn it over to Mary for our keynote.
Thank you very much, Carrie Ann, for that introduction. Thank you to our esteemed panelists and my associate and moderator, Mindy Figueroa. And a special thank you to all of you who have taken the time to attend this event. Conducting this research has been one of the most profoundly moving projects of my career, and I am grateful to the Network of Executive Women for providing us with this opportunity. When I came back to the US from the Pacific Rim after 14 years, a Southeast Asian tiger economy and 2 recessions, I settled back in Miami and embraced the vibrancy and diversity that had flourished there in my absence. I understood what it's like to navigate more than one world and to weave in and out of cultural nuances. My purpose, or my why, is to demonstrate the power of unlimited thinking. I also believe that women's stories can change the world. I'm going to do some reading here because there's a lot of ground to cover in a short time, and I want to make time for our dynamic panelists. Here's a thought. If Latinas can keep their cultural attributes and learn how to best leverage these strengths without losing them, it is the best of both worlds. While every woman's journey is different, we need to take into account that there are special variables that determine a Latina executive's needs. Specifically, they are country of origin, socioeconomic status, including the parent's educational level, and the number of generations her family has been in the US. She may be smart and have good ideas. She may also need confidence boosting or executive polish. Bear in mind that 1 in every 5 women in the United States is Latina. Let's follow the money. Latino-owned companies have grown 31.6% since 2012, more than double the growth rate of all business across America. About 4.4 million Latino-owned businesses in the US contribute more than $700 billion to the economy annually. Since the former financial crisis, Latinos have been responsible for 82% of the growth of the US labor force, despite being only 18% of the overall population. Why am I so passionate about helping to advance Latinas? Let me count the ways. While many women share common traits, we observed during our research some consistency in some traits are strongly present in Latina culture. Family is first priority. There's an acute understanding of the value of multi-generational groups, a fierce honoring of her mother and her mother's mother, an undaunted drive to make a better life, emotionally intelligent, culturally influential, demonstrable courage, resiliency, and a passion for living, a love for her culture, food, music, and dance, and a consistent commitment to give back to community. As for Latinas and corporations, here's a perspective in terms of where we are now. The current standard for everything from promotability to executive presence is based on white male norms. We know is that diversity increases productivity and profitability. However, Latinas represent the fastest growing sector of small business growth because many Latinas do not see an opportunity for authentic advancement in a large corporation. Why are they discouraged? On average, Latinas in the US are paid 46% less than white men and 31% less than white women. Latinas are paid less than white men for doing the very same jobs. The gap hurts women and families. Lower earnings for Latinas mean less money for their families, especially since more than half of Latina mothers are the main breadwinners for their households. COVID-19 has drastically shifted norms and expectations. With America on lockdown, women, especially mothers working from home, experience a unique dynamic, and at this moment could prove pivotal for Latina executives. The cultural crossover and difficulties and hardships that many Latinas have experienced have created increased levels of resilience, which may have genetically engineered them for this moment. The non-executive blue-collar Hispanic community in the service sector has been particularly affected by the pandemic, as many work in essential roles, are not executives working from home, and have to go to work in afflicted areas, putting their families at more risk. Companies across the world are reevaluating the feasibility of working from home. The very qualities and characteristics misunderstood by white male leaders could work to a Latina's advantage. Traditional Latina values place family as a top priority. The Latina's role as chief household officer rises to the forefront in a pandemic crisis. A well-organized female executive can now be at home, cook, help with homework, not face long transit times, and because she is an overachiever, she will manage her schedule to get her work done. We had one participant that said she considered herself American, Puerto Rican, and a Dominican. Companies that understand how to nurture and value this pivotal dynamic will be set to reap the rewards going forward into the new future. Layoffs of lower-level employees need to be carefully considered with a long-term perspective. Let's talk specifically about this research and why it is so groundbreaking and different. We approached each interview and focus group as a listen to learn experience. We had to be innovative about the recruitment process for the research, as there is no centralized database of Latina executives. We retooled some technology and leveraged some friendships. We interviewed almost 40 C-suite and mid-level executives across the country, with one-on-one interviews online or via telephone for the C-suites, and with in-person focus groups in Houston and in Chicago. Our approach was deliberately provocative and intensely personal. We soon came to realize that many of the questions we asked had never been asked of these women before. Our eager participants internalized, deliberated, gestured, shared stories, some wonderful, some horrifying. We passed around the Kleenex while women wept together. Without exception, each woman wanted to continue the conversation and stay vested in what was shared. Every meeting ended with hugs. Here are the highlights of what we learned, and for more on this topic, please download the research. What are the barriers to inclusion? Collectivism versus individualism. Many Latinos are raised in a collectivist culture that values the good of the group and praises being selfless, generous, and helpful, respecting authority figures. The business environment in the United States is very individualistic and values assertiveness, independence, and appropriate pushback. This is a dichotomy for Latina. Latina-ness versus reserve. Many Latinas believe it is not acceptable to bring your culture and emotional side of yourself to the workplace. They learn to repress their natural expressiveness and are told to tone it down. One executive was asked when she was speaking passionately about a business topic, what is the crisis? Some learn poker face or VNE, that's value neutral expression, and speak in monotone. This is not how Latinas naturally behave at home, with friends, or with their families. Personalissimo versus familiar. Being friendly, open, and in close proximity, along with hugging, kissing, and touching, is natural for most Latinas, even in a business environment. This is not the norm of friendliness at work in the US. However, the liveliness and expressiveness that Latinas bring to the Zoom meeting may now be welcomed as stimulating and interesting. Not only do Latinas, this is language, not only do Latinas have to contend with language differences with English speakers, many of whom equate having an accent with a lack of intelligence, but they also deal with the many regional varieties of the Spanish language from over 33 countries. What can companies do? Number one, understand that diversity increases productivity and profitability. Research shows ethnically diverse executive teams were 33% more likely to see better than average profits. And at the board of directors level, they are 43% more likely to see above average profits. Develop true cultural competence and inclusive leadership. Recognize bias. Recognize that there are differences between collectiveness and individualist cultures. Sponsor, do not just mentor. Be deliberate about Latina talent. This includes accountability, hiring, promotion, equal pay, and retention. And leverage in-house Latina talent. At the end of the day, it is up to leaders to set the tone. In conclusion, remember, the opposite of courage is not cowardice. It is conformity. And now it's time for our panel discussion. I'm honored to introduce our moderator, Mindy Figueroa, Vice President of Strategy and Audience Engagement for Latinarrific, and the CEO of an award-winning marketing and communications agency, Latin to Latin. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome everybody. This is Mindy Figueroa, and Mary, what an honor to be with these amazing powerhouses of Latinas. We come together to unveil not only the research, but to learn about their journey and share with all of you. Today, you're going to hear from Maria Elena Lagomasino, or Mel. She's from the We family and also sits on the board of Coca-Cola and Disney World. Rosario Perez from RP Advisors and a former president of ProMujer. Marisa Solis, VP of Hispanic Markets from PepsiCo Beverages, and Natalia Pedrosa, Diversity and Inclusion Executive. What I'm going to ask is for self-introductions. I'm going to ask each of them to tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, a little bit about something that will really tell your Latina story. Anybody wants to start in particular? Start, Mini Mani Mo. Let's start with Marisa. Come on, Marisa.
Thank you so much, Mindy, and thank you everybody for being on the call. This is a real honor. Mary, that research is absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much. It's just great. A little bit about myself for everyone. Marisa Solis, as Mindy introduced me. I'm actually currently the SVP of Core Brands Media and Partnerships at PepsiCo's Frito-Lay North America. So my role recently changed. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Mexico City. I came to the US at the young age of 10 years old. My father passed away and my mom came to look for better. I grew up in the border area, Grand Valley, in a city called Harlingen, Texas. My mom remarried and he and my stepdad started a restaurant business together. That area that I grew up with, if you know it, it's about 90% Hispanic, very low income. I'm the product of public education. My high school had a very high dropout rate and less than 10% of students in my high school pursued a college degree. I was very, very lucky when I was a senior that a teacher took me and a group of kids on a college trip to the East Coast that really opened my eyes. I got to visit Princeton and Columbia, and it was then I fell in love with Georgetown University. I felt when I went to DC that it was truly the center of the world and I wanted to be there. And I was very fortunate and ironically that the Coca-Cola company actually gave me a full ride and a full scholarship to Georgetown as part of the Coca-Cola Scholars Program. I went to study foreign service to become an ambassador. I got an early dose of reality when my dean said, hey, if you really want to be an ambassador, you got to go into corporate America, you got to make a bunch of money, you got to donate to a political, person, and then maybe you'll get appointed. So it was kind of my first dose. And, after that bit of advice, I've been in corporate for about 25 years with a bit of a stint in politics that didn't last very long that we could talk about later.
Right.
But it's a great, challenging career at Procter & Gamble, at Deloitte Consulting, and the last 18 years at PepsiCo. So very excited to be here. Last but not least, I am married to my high school sweetheart for 23 years, and I have a 15-year-old daughter, Gabriela. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, Marisa. I'm going to continue on the same order of my screen. So Natalia, why don't you take the turn now to introduce yourself?
Sure. What's my Latina origin story? As I was trying to write it yesterday, I immigrated to the country with my family when I was 4. We were sponsored by Tulane University for my dad to do some medical research. We lived in student housing in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana, until I was 4. I can be very honest. I was the first translator for my mother by the age of 5, so I speak excellent Spanglish if anybody needs that kind of translation. Grew up in a town that was definitely a mix of cultures and loved it, and then had an opportunity to go to Louisiana State University, so I'm a proud LSU Tiger. Along with that, I work in diversity and inclusion, which is probably the proudest moment for me, besides my family, right? I love my family above all, but I have to say that the opportunity to work, to put women and to put the focus on diversity within the workplace and within the culture of a workplace is so critical at this time. I have a daughter. She's 12 years old. She's in 7th grade, and she is the love of my life, along with my husband. I love the report. The report almost sang to me. I mean, let me show you my hands, right? Let me show you how Latina I am. The report was like, here it is. I cannot believe it. I wish I would have known this because I would have said it in my last talent review. Let me share this information with you. So I hope that everybody can see the benefit of it because the study is amazing. And thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. And we're going to go back to some of your backstory and your role as well when we go into the questions. I'm going to turn it over to Maria Elena Lagomasino, or Mel.
Thanks, Mindy. And thanks to the Network of Executive Women really for putting this on, and to Mary. And I think it's really important work. And thank you there's more than 300 of you that joined us. And I think we can all learn from each other here. So I am originally from Cuba, and we left Cuba a year and a half after Castro and left everything behind. I was 11 at the time, and we went from Havana to West Hartford, Connecticut, which was quite a shock, especially in the winter time. Anyway, my story is too long to be short, so I'm going to tell you that I spent about 35 years in the banking system, first with Citibank, and then with Chase, which became JP Morgan Chase. And eventually I left to form my own company, which is called WE Family Offices, and which is a wealth advisory firm for very successful financial families. And along the way, when I was 35, I went on my first corporate board. So I've been on actually a few boards, and today I have the honor, really, and the privilege of serving on the board of directors of the Coca-Cola Company and the Walt Disney Company.
Excellent. That's fascinating. And we're going to go back to you to talk about that, because one thing is on the on the corporate career, but the other thing is sitting at the C level at a for-profit organization. And Rosario Perez, can you tell us your little story?
Sure. Thank you very much to Mary and Latinarrific and to the National Network of Executive Women. And I think what you guys are doing is extremely important. I'm originally from Chihuahua, Mexico, where I grew up in a large family. I'm one of 12 siblings. I am the sixth, so I was right in the middle. And when I was 13 years old, I guess my mother had her hands full of, people who were teenagers, babies. So she decided to send me and two of my sisters to boarding school in the United States. And I spent there grammar school, part of grammar school and high school. And then I went back to Mexico for college because my father felt that it was too crazy in the United States. And but I wasn't that happy. I had had a great time in high school because I discovered that I could be independent, which in Mexico, as many you know, in Latin America, women tend to be very protected. So I went back to Mexico for college, and after 3 years, I decided I was going to go and pursue a go to graduate school because I wanted to become an academic, and I enrolled in the PhD program in modern European history at Yale University. And then from then on, I decided it was too crazy for me to be an academic. I was too Latin. I was wanting to be with people and not writing books. So I decided to go into business. My father was delighted because he never could understand why I wanted to pursue a career in academia. So I went, I started Citibank. I had the incredible privilege of having to work for Mel. And even though she never interviewed me, but we got along extremely well. And then from then on, I went to Chase with Mel and had a 30-year career in banking. And when I left JP Morgan Chase, I decided that I wanted to do something totally different. And I thought about what I wanted to do, and I decided I wanted to do something in the non-for-profit world. And I was lucky that I got a call to inviting me to be on the board of ProMujer Inc., which is a great organization serving Latin American women. And they have like 300,000 women of scarce resources, and they provide financial, educational, and health services. And I then was asked to become the CEO of the company. And it was a great experience for me. And right now, I am doing, I have my own company, and I do consulting services for women entrepreneurs of scarce resources and social enterprises that are focused on that segment of the population. So I'm very much into women, and especially into Latin women. Thank you.
That's wonderful, Rosario. And I love the diversity of each of the panelists, but I also, on a different type of careers that they have transitioned from one element to the other. And also the in a way, the mentorship and sponsorship levels that you and Mel have experienced during the years. You're good friends and you have helped each other in your career. So we're going to explore that in a minute. What I'd like to do now is start with the general questions. And I specifically would like Mel to help us give her perspective as it relates to the topic of the conversation today, elevating the Latina experience in corporate America. What comes to mind, Mel?
Well, I think what comes to mind is how do you, as a corporate, and also as an employee, but how do you as a corporate create an environment where people from all backgrounds, but let's say in this case, Latina women, feel comfortable, feel that they can be themselves, and feel that they can contribute everything that they've got to contribute. If you're not comfortable, if you don't feel you can be yourself in a work environment, no matter where it is, you're not going to be able to be the best that you can be, and you're not going to be able to give everything that you have to give.
Thank you. And I want to also ask anybody else from the panelists if you want to add to the same question. What we're trying to do with the format of the panelists to be organic, to be dynamic. Yes, we have some questions that we have that I'm going to be teeing off, but it's important that you know, it creates conversation. I don't know if any of the other ladies wants to address the same question that or piggyback on what Mel said.
Hey, the one thing I'll add, you know, Mary, when I saw the study, I mean, my first thought was it's about time that we have something like this. But I'll tell you, throughout my career, for me, it's been about finding my voice. And it was a tough journey to find that voice. And I think the more we can do to allow Latinas to find their voice, whether it's in corporate America or public service, I think it'll be benefit not just Latinas, but society in general. So thank you for this study, because I think it's really going to help Latinas elevate their voice.
I'll add that one of the programs that we will be offering to corporations is based on storytelling and how to structure your own narrative. And I think it's an important thing for all women to learn how to do that.
Absolutely. Natalia or Rosario, do you want to add another comment about the what comes to mind with this topic before we move on to other questions?
Sure. I mean, I can add something. It's interesting when I read it and I was thinking to myself, just the topic of gender balance, come on, how many years are we going to keep doing this? If we don't start moving further along, I mean, it is not just an imperative, it is way past it. When you look at the predictive numbers of how long it'll take for us to get there, I'm mad. I mean, honestly, I'm mad, and I'm frustrated, and we all need to come together as women and as supporters and allies and go ahead and make a change, and make a change now by actionable moments, not by speaking, but by coming together with this information and realizing the changes that we can make when we make true commitments, measurable commitments.
That's wonderful. I love that energy, that passion. That's what we want.
I'm spicy.
So did you want to add more?
Well, you know, one thing that struck me about the study is that of the of the women under 18 years old, Latinas make 25% in the US. That's a huge number. So companies have to be focusing on this population, because I would suspect that that's going to grow more into more than just 25%. But that's the pipeline of tomorrow. And I think that is extremely not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do is to focus on the Latina workforce.
Thank you. And I want to now, we're going to go back to that because in the current situation that under COVID-19, different companies, everybody's looking as to what's going to be next. And sometimes we talk about sectors, sometimes we talk about companies are going into technology, biotech, healthcare, but we sometimes forget about demographics. And I think that this is an important topic that if you're looking for growth, potentially focusing on the Latina market, it could be another source of revenue for your company. Anybody wants to comment on that?
I mean, this is the whole case behind inclusion, right? And diversity. It's not that it's like it's a good thing to do, it's the right thing to do. But the truth is there's a lot of benefits to organizations who diversify their workforce. And when you're looking at your consumer, when you're thinking about the growth market within the United States and where you're going to target, you have to be intelligent about it. Look at the Latina market. We're purchasing. You want us to buy? you need to be able to market to us and understand us.
Excellent, excellent. I want to turn into a different topic about, you're obviously all successful ladies, and you are at the top of your game. But I'm sure at one point you had a pivoting moment or a aha moment where either things were you face it differently, you flip to your mindset, or that you probably didn't know what was going to happen and you have to figure out what was going to be your next step. I like for you ladies to comment. I think it's important that each of you share your pivot moment so that people understand that you're not in this position just because it was just good, right? Who wants to take that question?
I'm happy to take it. You know, obviously there's been many pivotal moments throughout my career, but I think one of the first real big ahas for me was, you know, early in my career, there weren't a lot of role models that were Latinas or Latinos, quite frankly, to emulate or to look up to, or to turn to. And so for me, a big realization was that I needed to emulate, turn to, and seek help from people who were not of my own race or ethnicity, and broadening that network to, you know, in many cases it was white males at first, and then, you know, it became females, and then it became a broad network of people. But that was a big realization and big turning point for me in terms of getting different perspectives, and just building a network of people that could help you and help me throughout my career.
And Marisa, maybe because I know of our prior conversations, at one point you were trying to also kind of negate your Latina background to a certain degree. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened and what was the pivoting point there?
That was another big pivot point, and it's actually, you know, I think what really catapulted me to where I am today, it was my previous role. So our most top senior leader in our company approached me to really start a Hispanic business unit for our company. And I turned her down. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be, I wanted to be seen as a leader, period, end of story. I did not want to be seen as a Latina leader. And for me to start a Hispanic business unit was basically pegging me in that light. So I turned her down multiple times. Then a very good sponsor and mentor of mine, who happens to be a white male, by the way, said, hey, what are you doing? This is your opportunity and your chance to show you are a leader, but also to bring who you are. And I have to tell you, it was a pivotal role for me, because not only did I prove the business piece, but for me personally, it was probably the most rewarding roles that I've had in my career. Seeing what we could do for the community, for the Hispanic business, and for Hispanic talent in our company. So that was a big pivotal moment.
So I'm going to, because I know the backstories of these ladies, I'm going to jump into Mel, because I think you shared with me prior that, you know, being Latina was something of a benefit for you, and also the role that it played in corporate America sitting on boards. Can you elaborate about that?
This is not going to be about the pivotal moment, right?
Well, we can talk about that and then go back to the other one.
The pivotal moment for me doesn't have to do with being Latina.
Okay.
I can go there, or I can go whichever way you want to go.
Let's go with the pivotal moment, and let's jump into the other Latinaness.
Okay, so I talked a little bit about elevating the experience as being in a place where you feel comfortable and you feel you can be authentic and you can be true to yourself. So when I was, I guess I was in my early 30s, and I was working for Citibank, and I happened to have, I'm sorry if I insult anybody, it was a long time ago, and I had a boss who really had sort of what I would call loose moral values. And as a result of that, he actually, one time when we were supposed to be on a trip visiting all these clients, and I had done all this work, he just disappeared and went to shack up with somebody someplace. Although we didn't know that. Rosario remembers this story well. And what I realized, and so I was left, you know, I was in Chile waiting for him who never showed up, having to cancel all kinds of meetings and everything, and nobody could find this guy. And eventually they did find the guy. My trip had to be all rejiggered. And the incredible thing was not that he did this. The incredible thing was that he didn't even get a slap on the wrist as a result of that. And what it made me realize is that my values and the values of the company were not in sync. And about 2 weeks later, actually a recruiter called me. And I used to get calls from recruiters. I never paid any attention. But about 2 weeks later, a recruiter called me. And it happened to be for Chase. And I went and I interviewed and I got the job. And that really was most of my career was at Chase. And the reason I could be successful at Chase for all those years was that I felt that my values were in sync with the values of the company. And the day I left Chase because I felt my values were out of sync with the values of the company. I really do think that if you're ever in a situation where you have a disconnect between your values and what you're all about and the values of a company, you have this giant sucking sound of negative energy, okay, that you're using on the one hand to fight off that dissonance, and that gets in the way of your ability to be the best that you can be. So I just gave you the pivotal moments around values, because I think that that's so important. And at the end, no matter how much money they offer us, no matter how many promotions they offer us, if you end up basically being bribed to stay in a place that doesn't share your values, you are not going to be happy. And by the way, you won't be that successful either, because you will not be able to be the best you can be.
Wow, so powerful, Mel. Thank you so much. Values and integrity is such two powerful words that sometimes they come to question every day in the business. And I'm glad that you took us there, because that's something that we should definitely keep in our social, in our collateral of tools in order for us to make decisions in our career. Rosario, can we hear you say what was your pivotal moment?
Well, I had probably a lot of pivotal moments, but the one I think that stands out for me is actually when I left 6 months later from Citibank to Chase to join Mel. And at that time, Chase Private Bank was really a little behind cities. And the whole operational and back office and marketing was not really up to snuff. They had a great client base, but they had problems, and it was a problematic. And we were charged, Mel was charged with turning around. As her former boss said, you have to take it from a Chinese takeout to a French restaurant, high-end French restaurant. And Mel assigned me to do the back office and operational procedures and marketing. All these stuff that was not glamorous, was quite unglamorous. And I had been used to being in the front office. And it was the best assignment that I could ever had, because I learned the business from front to back, from back to front. And at that time, I realized something within myself that I really wanted, at the time, the career path was either a banker or a manager. And I knew that I wanted management. I enjoy working with processes, with people. And this put me on a path to where I ended up, which being in an executive management position. So it was a hard thing, because at the time I didn't know if it was a good thing to do. But in retrospect, and I think that has been part of my life, anytime I have adversity or something that I don't think looks good in the outside, and I have done it, it has leaped forward me in ways that I never could imagine.
So you're a couple of different takeaways. Obviously, being pushed or by a mentor or a sponsor, in this particular case, Mel, help you
I didn't push her.
No, she didn't.
She jumped.
You positioned her.
Yeah.
But that made you learn something that you were not, didn't have those skills. So that created some nervousness and challenges at that time, but it was also a learning experience. So mentorship or sponsorship, and then stretching your possibilities of learning something new. And Natalia, what was your pivoting moment?
Well, it's interesting because I've had a few too, and I think about the person who helped me find my voice, which back then I didn't really understand that sponsorship idea, but it was a white male, and I reflect back on that. I had been a mom, right? I was a mom of a toddler, and I was working very, very hard within talent acquisition and doing some campus recruitment. And he recognized something in me. He really helped me find my voice. And in a lot of ways, he validated the ideas that I was bringing to the table and gave me the opportunity to actually talk about my ideas and then share them. I think between that one and one time I received feedback that I think a lot of women get, which is around executive presence. That word drives me insane, because if you don't put any connotation or definition around it, how can you perform to be better if you hear that feedback of executive presence? At that point, I really thought to myself, I was like, what am I doing in the workplace that's so different than others? Besides the fact that I'm a very friendly soul, which I think everybody can tell in this webcast, right? What was it? Was it communication? So I spent like a journey of like a month asking other women and men in my organization, what do we mean when we say executive presence? No one could give me a clear definition. And then at that point, I was like, forget it. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to be okay with it. I'm going to present at the different levels that I need to present, but I'm going to be me. And I think that moment was the moment when I was like, I am okay. I am okay with who I am. I bring a lot of passion to the table, and that half the time is what gets my projects across the line. So
this is great. I'm kind of jumping at this because we got to talk about this for a second.
Code switching.
I actually admire what Mel did when we were talking before preparation for this, and it's about that executive presence, that social collateral that some people we're not born with a social collateral, right? Your environment gives you different tools in order to understand. But in the research, some of the ladies told us that sometimes because Latinas dress in a certain way, that they're not taken serious, and they're not using that executive presence or not being interpreted. Mel, you had very direct words about that. Can you share with the rest of the team here?
Well, I feel very strongly that tight skirts, incredibly high heels, and low cleavage, does not lead you to great professional conversations in a corporate environment. And I think that when you do that, you're basically inviting people to think of you as a sex object instead of a professional. So if that's what you want, that's what you get. And I feel very strongly about that. I mean, Rosario and I was telling Mindy before about a colleague of ours who kept dressing like that, and then she'd have to go to Mexico, and of course she'd come back saying how everybody had hit on her. And we'd have all these issues with clients. And, we had to have a conversation with her about that's what she was putting out there. And so I think we have to be realistic, ladies, okay, that when you dress like that, you are going to get a certain kind of attention. And that attention doesn't necessarily translate to having them think of you as a great professional.
Thank you for sharing that.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely, Rosario.
But it doesn't mean what Mel is saying is totally right. However, we don't want to confuse that with meaning that you have to wear a navy blue suit like a man, because you can be colorful and appropriately dressed with color and, feminine. That's okay. You don't have, like in the 80s, I remember when I first started working at Citibank, we all looked like men, because we had all these suits, and that I don't think is necessary either.
No, you're right. That's an excellent point, and well taken. So it's basically you know, a balancing act. You know, you still can use color, you can use your own personality and be yourself, but you know, there's places to dress in a certain way, to go out to dinner with your family members, friends, etc. But there's another way to dress in a corporate way. I want to switch to a conversation to COVID-19 because I think this is an important topic, and I know we have probably another 15 minutes left for the discussion. COVID-19, how do you think is going to be the new normal? First of all, how it has affected Latinas working from home, and how do you think is the future going forward? Anyone in particular? Or I can pick the one I think is going to give me. Marisa, you talked about this. You talked about this.
No, we did. You know, I can't speak for every Latina's experience, obviously, and we're still learning what the new normal is. But I can tell you, for me, prior to the situation, I was almost 100% travel. So I traveled a lot. You know, I miss my daughter a lot. Obviously, I had my balance and things going on. And all of a sudden, overnight, I'm 100% at home. And while there are challenges to managing that, for me, the very first word that came to my mind was, I am so blessed. I am so blessed to be home, to be able to, you know, be able to have keep my job, be with my daughter, be able to see my husband, and just a tremendous amount of gratitude, right? And it's always interesting to me, for Latinas, gratitude is always there. You know, you give thanks for what you have. And I think, you know, as you think about the new normal, the challenges we're going to face, I think we're made for this. I mean, we're very grateful for what we have. We're relentless, and we have that resiliency. You know, this is for us. Okay, I'm not going to say it's a piece of cake, but hey, we will take any challenge and take it straight on. And I think this is our opportunity to show we can multitask, we can take care of our families, we can be focused on the business and what needs to happen. And by the way, we can embrace our Latina hermanas and all of our other brothers and sisters and help people connect. So I think it's a great opportunity, which is a little bit different take than maybe most people in these days, but I see it as positive.
I know, you know, I'm not going to go around because we have for time, but I want to go to Mel about two things. One, her role in sitting in boards, both Coca-Cola and Disney. Very few Latinas have that privilege of sitting on boards, and there's a lot of opportunities for increasing that. I want to make sure that we cover that topic before we go into Q&As, because it's important for the audience to understand how her career, how she she talked about it 35 years ago, being invited. So Mel, please tell us about your phenomenal race to sitting at the corporate, at for-profit companies boards.
I think what you're asking me is to tell you how I got on my first board because I was a Latina, right, Mindy?
Absolutely. And then tell us about your transition to Coca-Cola and Disney.
Okay. So many years ago, actually 35 years ago, I was invited by a company named Phillips Van Heusen to go on their board. And I was about 35. And the reason, or one of the reasons they invited me was precisely because I was a Latina. Because they were the biggest manufacturer of men's shirts, and they used to manufacture them in Central America. And they were being accused by the labor unions, by the American labor unions, that they had children working there, that had horrible conditions, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that Phillips Van Heusen wanted to have somebody on their board who actually understood what was going on in these places. And within about a month of being on the board, they invited me to go down with several other board members to Guatemala. And I visited the factories and the towns that were there were whole towns that just made shirts for Phillips Van Heusen. And so anyway, that was my first experience on a corporate board, and it had everything to do with being Latina. And after that, you know, once you're on a board and you've been there a while, you get invited to be on other boards. So over time, I ended up being invited to be on the Coke board, which was a huge privilege, and then the Disney board, which is another huge privilege.
And you talk about specifically the alignment, because it's not only that they invited you, but why you selected to be part of that. And you talked about some different characteristics. Can you summarize them?
And again, it's back to the values. It's what these companies stand for. These companies are global, which I am. They're optimistic and believe in goodness, which I feel I do too. And they're democratic. You know, the Queen of England can enjoy a Coke, and a guy who's in Bangladesh, you know, digging a ditch can also enjoy a Coke and have a refreshing moment. You know, a family in China can smile at Mickey Mouse, and a family in the US can smile at Mickey Mouse. And these are all characteristics that we share. They're universal things that create happiness. And so that's why I love being on these two boards. Complete alignment. Again, I go back to the alignment of values. The older I get, the more I realize that having your values aligned, whether it's with your company or your outside activities or the people you associate with, has everything to do with you being able to be yourself.
I want to check, thank you so much. I want to check on the questions on the timing, because I know, Mel, you have to jump off very soon. There's a couple of different thoughts here. I'm going to start with the questions. Any thoughts on wage gap? And have you seen any successful strategies in your company's industries to address this? This is coming from Ileana Rojas Saldaña. I don't know if this is something that either Natalia or Rosario may want to comment.
I mean, I think for us, the more critical thing that we did was really just doing the wage gap analysis, right? And tracking it per business. My organization is on track. We're even in every role. We did it actually 2 years ago. So I feel that if you're not measuring to see where you are, you can't see what the gap is. So I think that's the most critical thing that you can do, is start by measuring to understand where your starting point is. And then, but this is a very like at the executive team level, right? Like getting the understanding, but sometimes it's about, do they even know the gap is there? So the data is the most critical thing you can have to influence changes within any organization with any of these topics.
I was appalled, by the way, by those numbers, just because I know we've done those studies at Coke and Disney, and we don't have a gap. And we've done not just with men and women, but then if you take it into diverse populations, and the same thing with my company. So when I saw your research, that was the thing that really blew me away.
Thank you for pulling that out in terms of the research. Rosario?
Yeah, I was going to say that was the one item that blew me away. But what blew me away was that the Latinas have the widest gap to men and to white women, and what Black women and Asians. And what blew me away was that the Asian women had the narrowest gap, which I would suspect has to do with higher levels of education.
I have another question in terms of, this is from Gabriela Poveda Posada, as some of you are foreign born but raised in the US, how you find your own identity? She says, I find myself lost sometimes between not being fully Latina, not being fully American either.
That is such a beautiful thing. You have a foot, you get to keep the best of both. I have actually always felt that was the best thing for me. My official language is Spanglish. And, and I think the best thing that you can have is that you are totally bicultural and you can take the best of both.
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, go ahead, Rosario.
No, I would say I would agree with it. It opens up, I feel sorry for the people, the Anglo-Americans who only have one culture, because it opens up a completely different dynamic and point of view. So you should definitely be happy about it.
Excellent.
I would say congratulations, you're officially a 200%er, which is 100% Latina, 100% American, and it's phenomenal.
Oh my God, this is a celebration of our Latinaness and our heritage. I have another question that I think it probably between Rosario and Mel can answer because of your unique friendship and working together. Can you speak more to the sponsorship and how you might approach an ally, or how you practice the sponsorship yourself? And we also have the mentorship. So there's two words there that I want to explore. Rosario, Mel?
I always sponsor talented people. But I think when you're sponsoring somebody who's not necessarily mainstream, you have to go a little further. Because if you're sponsoring a guy and he's very talented, you probably don't have to, frankly, spend as much time as if you sponsor somebody who's a minority, whether it's an African American or an Asian American or whatever, because they're not mainstream. And so I think that takes a little more work. But it's worth every bit. And I mean, that's probably the happiest things that I've done actually have been to sponsor really talented people and see them be very successful. It's like flowers blooming, in the garden.
Oh, that's beautiful metaphor. Rosario.
You know what? I think that one of the beautiful things in today's world is that there are a lot of men who really strongly believe, for either personal or business reasons, that women need to be at the table. And you should identify those people and go look for them, because and I would suspect that, when Natalia and Lisa said that they had white male, I'm sure those men were men who believed in the women cause. And, and I think that's an important thing to do, because we cannot do this without the men.
That's such a great common thread. I noticed that all of you, or some of you, including myself, have had mentors are mostly white male that have identified the talent on us and have said, go ahead, take the world and be successful. How much minutes do we have? How many minutes do we have? Another 2 or 3
I have one.
Mel, do you want to
More time, Mindy.
I'm sorry?
More time.
People are saying that
Let's just hear, Mindy, let's just hear some final words from Mel, because I know she has a hard close.
yes, absolutely. Mel.
I would just say, be yourself, make a difference, be the best that you can be. And the only way you can do that is to love what you do. So find what you love and pursue it with passion. It's been a real privilege to be part of this panel and be with all of you.
You're
I'm sorry
awesome.
that I have to.
Thank you so much. We're going to stay for a few more minutes. Carrie Ann, let us know.
Yeah, we can definitely stay for a couple of more minutes.
Excellent.
So if you need to jump off, because I know we're at the top of the half hour, if you are interested in learning more about NEW or our Latino work, please email us at connect@newonline.org. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mindy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We've spent a couple of different minutes here. Let me rate any advices for Latina women that are still finding the path for leadership. How can we differentiate from our peers? This is coming from Catherine Briseño.
Can I say something?
Yes, por favor.
I would say that you need to be, we Latinas tend to be educated to be submissive and a little shy. We need to get rid of that culture. That's a bad cultural thing. We need to be bold. You need to be bold, a risk taker, and go for it. Go for things and be proactive looking for those things. Don't think that because you are doing a great job, everybody's gonna recognize you. Get out of the closet, you have to show it. And you have to be assertive.
Excellent. Natalia?
And I think that's the most critical thing, right? It's almost like trying to change who you are. But I think I wrote down on my paper multiple times, be bold. And I really mean it. Find your voice sooner, find it earlier, take pride in your culture and who you are, because it's only an asset. Hold on to it, discover it, and really hear your voice. And then share it with others, know who you are and share it with others.
Yeah, Oh, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, couldn't agree more, Natalia, with that kind of voice. To me, you know, what the world needs, and particularly the corporate world, is a problem solver and someone that has empathy for others. And I think as Latinas, we're both. We know how to solve problems, and we have that empathy, you know, for other people that makes us who we are. Leverage that and, you know, shout it from the rooftops, because it will differentiate you in corporate America.
I'm going to ask you this. I asked you to some of you during our preparation. What would you sell to your 21-year-old self today? What would you say to the 21-year-old self today if you go back? What would you tell yourself?
Man, I love that question, because I wish I would say take risks.
Mhm.
You have nothing to lose. Take the risk, find your voice, embrace, you know, embrace your Latina-ness. Like, I would have taken so many more risks if I had found my voice earlier, but it took a little while, I think, to balance that identity. So the younger you can do it, gosh, just the better off you're going to be.
And Rosario and I agree that
Yeah.
the time to take those crazy risks is when you're young, because it's when you're a little further on and you've got a little bit more of an asset base, you know, you think about things differently.
Excellent. Rosario, what would you say to yourself at 21 if you were?
I would agree that it's to take a risk. I wish I had been, and I took risks, but I wish I had taken even more risks.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Natalia?
I think I would say, why not you? Why not? Why are you doubting? You know, take, and it's the same thing every one of these women is saying, take the risk, but why not you? Have the faith.
Excellent. Let's see. Well, look, why don't we go around in terms of takeaways? Because if you had a crystal ball in terms of what's going to happen in the next few months, the rest of the year after COVID-19, what would you recommend to a young Latina that is listening to all of us, and probably today, right this second, we're changing somebody's life by having this conversation. So right now, I know there's a girl out there with a tear in their eyes, or with their heart palpitating and saying, oh my God, I can take a risk. I'm okay to be Latina. So what would you say it's a great takeaway from today's session that you would want to leave for the rest of the audience?
Yeah,
I think
go
ahead. I think professional development is it's a self-guided course. It truly is. I think you have to focus and kind of create your own roadmap. It doesn't mean you're always going to stay on that road, but think about the things that you need to develop within yourself in the sense of skills, not changing your own culture, that will get you into that next role, right? Because sometimes that skill will get you the next job. So creating a roadmap to your career is always something that you should be doing in your early 20s, and it'll change. It's an ever-changing landscape as you meet and you see different things. But always remember, your Latinarrific self, that's your biggest asset that you have.
I love it.
Gracias.
Marisa or Rosario?
Well, what I was going to say, you know, I was saying this prior to COVID, is that it is our time right now. When you look at the statistics, we're the fastest growing population, the youngest population, you know, the one contributing to the economy. And now after COVID, that's all even been more emphasized. And so there's no better time to make an impact as a Latina than right now. And I love what you said, Natalia, why not you? Because you need to do it now. It's our time. And I would just encourage you, as corporations are looking for that problem solver, and that person that has empathy for the community and for those around us, you're it. You're that perfect combination. So step up and take that risk, right?
I want to add, Mindy, what we said earlier when we were speaking prior to the webinar with Mel. And there were a couple of things she identified as a focus, as a sector to focus on, which is technology. Clearly, technology is going to have a greater impact than ever. And here's what's cool about Latinas. They're early adopters of technology, one. And two, they naturally have wide-reaching networks. So they over-index in mobile, they over-index in adaptation of early technology, and they use it to communicate with their friends and their families. So that's another huge advantage, Latina, because that's leverage.
And I was gonna say that this is the perfect time because the world is gonna be totally changed. If we think we're going back to where we were in December, we are fooling ourselves.
Yep.
The world is gonna be transformed, and those times in history, I'm a historian, remember, are when you have the biggest opportunities. So look at this in the bright way. It's a tough time because it's tough, especially for a young person to have to go through this. But it also, the flip side, it's a huge opportunity to really reinvent yourself.
Optimism. I hear optimism. I hear resilience. I hear hope. Yes, do we have fear? Absolutely. We are fearful for our lives. But you know what? What you guys are sharing with the people that are in this study and the people that today participating is that there's hope that we're all gonna roll up our sleeves and figure it out. Period. I want to read off a couple of comments to see if you have reactions. I think that the people are reacting to your panel in such an amazing way. Alexandra Garcia says, such an inspiring conversation with such an amazing panel of strong Latina women. Wow. Thank you for that. Somebody was running to get tissues because they're really crying about what we're saying here. This is just, congratulations, Madeline Hernandez. From Allegro Living. How inspiring to hear how acceptance of your culture has made you successful. You empower us to take risk. What makes us different is what makes us unique. Let me see what else. Why not you? Have the faith, take the risk. It's such great advice. And it says, I want to write that on the mirror. Why not you? They're gonna be, oh my God, I'm getting chills.
I think Natalia has a new hashtag. Hashtag why not you?
Why not you? I'm looking at the mirror, absolutely. Phenomenal ladies, thank you for the dynamic discussion, leadership and recommendations today from Catherine Briseño. She's been very engaged. Also, that Tanner, she was one of the people that participated, and from Houston, Texas. Thank you, amazing panelists. Wonderful event, absolutely. What great insights and inspiration. Carrie Ann, this has been a total success.
This is amazing. This has been such a long time in the running. I've been working with Mindy and Mary for so long. They've been fantastic to work with. I want to thank Rosario, Natalia, Marissa, and Mel. Thank you so much for your time these days. There'll be a press release going out later today. So if you're interested in learning more about New and Latinarrific, you'll see that contact information there. So again, thank you. You can reach out to Latinarrific as well if you're interested in learning more about their services. Again, if you're interested in learning more about New and getting involved with us with our Latina work, you can reach out to connect@newonline.org. Again, thank you so much, panelists. This was amazing information. I could listen to you. I was like, let's keep going. I know I know you all have meetings to run to. So thank you again, and virtual hugs and besos to everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
I had so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.